Michael asks, a question regarding duration of probiotic use. Can you tell me why you only recommend taking probiotics for 2 to 3 months? What should I do after that? So this comes back to the note I just made. And this is the minimum duration. Now, again, that's the minimum duration to assess efficacy. Usually, if a probiotic is going to help someone, and by the way, they're not going to help all people all the time, but if they're going to help someone, you'll see improvements, some noticeable improvement within the first month. But there have been some studies, namely in constipation, that haven't found effect until well into the second month. In fact, there's even other data looking at cognition, finding that the effects may not become fully evident until 3 to 6 months in. So, trying to find what is the most reasonable evaluation period to recommend to you, I would say the minimum, again, minimum would be 2 to 3 months, and then see where you are. This next comment I think applies to most therapeutics. There's always going to be exceptions, but so discuss these things with your doctor or with your healthcare provider. But if a therapy is working, ride that wave until you notice a symptomatic plateau, meaning month over month, your symptoms are getting better. At some point, they plateau. I would ride that protocol until you've been plateaued for 1 to 2 months, just to make sure it wasn't a fluke and that there's consistency with those improvements. And then you can wean off and try to find the minimal effective dose. This is something I feel also to be very important, thinking about the minimal effective intervention, minimal dietary restrictions and longer term maximum dietary freedom, and minimal use of supplements. Now, I myself take one of our triple therapy packets once per day on most days. I'm not religious about it. If I'm traveling or sometimes I just don't feel like doing it, I won't. But in the long term, this is something I think you need to answer on your own, operating under the paradigm that you may not need a supplement. Because if you have the expectation that you will need a supplement, placebo will probably impact you into thinking that you do. We know placebo is powerful. We know in randomized control trials, so randomized control trials that are specifically designed to reduce the placebo effect, the effect of placebo is over 40%. So this is why I try to be really careful about the paradigm that we sort of inculcate into our audience is one that should not have this expectation of reliance upon supplements in the long term. If you combine that paradigm along with, again, hitting that curve of plateauing and then coming off and seeing, do you regress or not? If you do regress, bring them back in and try to figure out what feels best to you. That, I feel, is the most prudent way to approach this because we don't have very long-term studies, let's say in IBS or in SIBO, that are following people much beyond a year. In fact, most studies are usually a few months. So all we can do here is make an assumption that seems to be as pragmatic and logical as possible. And that is my, hopefully, seemingly pragmatic and practical recommendation. There is a food component to this that we'll address in one of the next questions. Actually, the next question by Rebecca asks this very question, supplements versus food, which partially speaks to your question about duration and what to do sort of after the probiotics, so to speak. Rebecca's question is, can these over-the-counter probiotics be replaced with fresh sauerkraut, yogurt, or kimchi? Or is there a reason to go for the supplements? The answer here, in short, is that fermented foods are viable and they are an adequate source of probiotics. This was something that was news to me as someone who fact checks myself. When we did our last piece comparing the dose of probiotic in supplements versus food, you see there's actually a very similar content between the two. And I'll put this table up here. It's a little bit involved, but hopefully it impresses upon you the depth of the research that we performed when trying to answer this question. What you see is that a serving of probiotic across different foods, sauerkraut, yogurt, kefir, kimchi, kombucha, has anywhere between 140,000 to 10, 20, 100, 200 billion. So there's a decent variance. But the point is there are multiple species that are used in these foods, and you can get a potent dose. So yes, I think it is very fair to say that foods can be totally sufficient to obtain enough probiotic, a similar amount to that found in supplements. There's also, coming back to the show me the data question, there's also data on fermented foods for improving IBS, constipation, leaky gut, and depression. Now, these being food studies, and food, sadly, tending to have less funding than supplements and less funding further yet still than drugs, these studies tend to be smaller and fewer than we'll see with the supplements. But that doesn't mean that they're not as effective. It just means there's not as much money on the table to do the study. So there's less studies and they're smaller. But certainly I think it's very logical to use food first. Now, there are some downsides to fermented foods for some people. I don't think this is a large issue, but I want to acknowledge that there can be food reactivity, right? Depending on what the food is, if you're someone who's nightshade sensitive, as an example, then kimchi, which contains nightshades, might be a problem for you. That's actually me. So I opt for a nightshade-free kimchi. This, again, is probably not a big issue for most people. Histamine. There might be, and I'm not clear on this, there might be more histamine in fermented foods than there are in probiotics. So someone who is histamine sensitive might do better with probiotics. And this is another question we'll come to in a moment. The long short is that probiotics, at least we have research to answer this, probiotics tend to be net antihistamine. So even though both fermented foods and probiotic supplements contain some histamine, at least for the probiotic supplements, we have data demonstrating that they have a net histamine reducing effect. The other thing with fermented foods that could be a downside, I think it's really probably quite minimal, is inconsistency in the dose, meaning different foods, how old they are, how they're manufactured. This can lead to a variance, whereas in a supplement, you're going to have a much more consistent dose, and it's easier to understand what the contents of the specific probiotic species are. A few guidelines for you. When choosing a fermented food for organic, unpasteurized, live cultures, and try to avoid added sugars as much as you can.